The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Hello, and welcome back to Drew's Adventure History TV. I'm your host, Drew Doherty. December 16 marks the 250th anniversary of one of the most memorable moments in history of the United States. Of course, I am talking about the Boston Tea Party. This famous event took place on December 16, 1773, and was one of the precursors to the American Revolution, which began just 2 years later in April of 75. Before we get there, we had to talk about the lead up of this event, so fasten your seatbelts and get ready to learn about that fateful day. The tensions between the American colonists and British soldiers had risen until it reached a breaking point back on March 5, 1770, when an angry mob of Bostonian colonists were engaging a group of British soldiers on King Street, throwing snowballs and shells towards them. While the soldiers decided to open fire, killing 5, wounding 6, this event would be later known as the Boston Massacre, a casualty to the eventual Boston Tea Party. Stay tuned to Drew's Adventure History TV to eventually learn all about the Boston Massacre. For now, let's move on. The American colonies began fed up with the British taxes of all their goods, including tea. Colonists believed in no taxation without representation, a famous political slogan that has stood the test of time. They felt that were given a say of a British Parliament did not believe the respect them. They wanted their own elected officials, but in May of 1773, the Parliament passes the Tea Act. This allowed British East India Company to sell tea at a cheaper price compared to its competitors, but were still taxing the tea when it reached colonial ports. Colonials didn't like this, and the tea smartly into the route. Some say that the cost of the smuggled tea was actually higher than buying it from the British East India Company. But the price wasn't the point. It was about the representation and building a colony that felt that they had a say. These concerns came to the attention of the Sons of Liberty, and now a recognized political group led by the likes of Samuel Adams and John Hancock. Adams, Hancock, and other leaders held rallies protesting the arrival of the British ships Dartmouth. By the 16th, the Dartmouth sister ships had arrived as well, and the Americans were expected to pay the taxes. They obviously did not agree with this. The British were prompted to tax the Boston citizens since their defeat in the 7 Years' War. The animosity has been building the colony since 1763, and it was finally time to stand up for themselves. On the morning of December 16, 1773, thousands of colonial protested the taxation on the Griffin's Wharf. Governor Thomas Hutchinson still didn't back down, which was suspected concerning that his house burned to the ground by the colonists for his support of the Stamp Act nearly 10 years prior, and then denied the ships return to Britain, expected that the taxes to be paid, not a very popular guy at the time. The same night, a large group of Bostonians disguised as Native Americans stormed the Dartmouth, Beaver, and Eleanor, famously dumping many tons of tea into the harbor, according to the History Channel. The chest held more than 90,000 pounds of tea, which would have cost nearly $1 million today. That is a whole lot of tea. While John Adams was excited to see this event of the Boston Tea Party, other historical American figures were not, such as George Washington. Ben Franklin. Washington disapproved of the menholes, while Franklin offers to reverse the British East India Company. Personally, nobody was hurt at that night, and no properties were damaged, except for a paylock. Only one man was arrested for his involvement in the Tea Party, Mr. Francis Angley. King George III and the British Parliament were obviously not thrilled with this event on December 16, so they passed the Coercive Act. This act includes closing Boston Harbor until the tea was paid, for the ending of the Massachusetts Constitution, and the elections of the town's officials, giving eternity to British justice, and forcing colonies to quarter British troops. These acts only angered the colonies further. A second Boston Tea Party actually took place on March of 1774. Smaller in scale of the first, this Tea Party caused the other colonies to start dumping the tea as well, such as Maryland, New York, and South Carolina. These events led up to the creation of the First Continental Congress, where elected officials from 12 of the 13 American colonies came together to discuss what the best step forward. They met in Philadelphia, and even though there was a division, the events on December 16 rallied them together against British tyranny. By October of 1774, the Declaration of Independence was written, and the colonists called for a boycott of British goods. They also formed a militia, and just months later, the American Revolutionary War began with a shot heard around the world at the battles of Lexington and Concord. If you want to learn more about the famous battles, make sure to click out the episode that I did on them. Without the Boston Tea Party, who knows how long it would have taken for Americans to truly come together. Since that day, the fateful event has cemented in the place of the United States history, but other countries followed suit. Just look at Mahatma Gandhi, who was clearly inspired by the events in 1908. There was a burning of the Indian registration cards as well as 1930, where the Indian Salt protest. On the 200th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, a large group of people gathered outside the Funeral Hall calling for the impeachment of President Richard Nixon, while also protesting on the oil crisis. Thank you all for watching that, and I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Jewish Adventure History TV and learn about the Boston Tea Party. Don't forget that December 16th is the 250th anniversary of this event. Have a great day and happy holidays.